Iván Serna, and I will be presenting to you some opportunities and barriers that building energy system has to overcome in order to increase their chances to be successfully implemented. Moreover, I will present the experience we had at Universidad de Santander. So, the agenda is as follows. First, I'll be presenting the motivation, followed by a very brief literacy survey on the barriers and opportunities facing this industry. Then, I will present the UDES case to finish with some concluding remarks. Modern society is mainly driven by financial cost efficiency, and actually building sector is not an exception. And since financial cost is generally not aligned with sustainability, we have in our hand a big problem when designing buildings. They are not as energy efficient as they should most of the time, and thus, since generally speaking, they represent up to 40% of the primary energy input, there is a big opportunity to increase the sustainability by trying to change how buildings are designed and changing, when possible, the inefficient legacy infrastructure. This not only applies to first world countries, since it's also applicable to developing countries like Colombia, where, for example, the ratio between the industrial and commercial class residential demand is 1 to 2. Okay, but how can we come close to this idea? We can focus towards developing successful business models for sustainability, like encourage sufficiency and develop scale-up solutions supported by this wave of digitalization, regulation change, and innovative technology, but still the risk may not be too clear. So with this basis, we should first see some successful and failure cases so we can adjust our decision making accordingly. On the main barriers identified, we have the governmental, political, regulatory barrier, as well as the financial and economic barrier, as expected. However, the lack of technical and expert personnel must not be undermined. Actually, the need of a standard and a proper good practice is the first step towards energy building system efficiency. Also, it is interesting the role of known technologies in building energy efficiency. For example, one shows how a known technology like heat pumps can increase energy efficiency in high-rise buildings. Now, one must be aware that the barriers depends on the participant type. Thus, the contractor may face barriers that are different from those faced by the designer. And in general, on the barrier side, we found that the influence on government is a very important barrier because of the influence of this actor into regulations and standards. On the driver side, as expected, we found that financial and market-based incentives has the most impact. But it is interesting to see that in developing countries, major incentives are linked with a mix of on-site generation and economic benefits. Actually, this was our case. Colombia since early 2000s has been working on a regulatory framework that promotes energy efficiency. These efforts are now more aggressive than ever. Actually, we have a reduction of up to 30% in the original investment for energy efficiency and our renewable energy projects, which lead to investment recovery times of about 4 to 6 years. So our story began with the possibility of changing the AC system, that is the air conditioning system, at one of our buildings. Instead of investing in the cheapest AC, we invested in a high efficiency AC, since we realized that this was an opportunity to make financially attractive a solar roof due to the recent approval of the 1715 law of 2008. Thus, although we spent all the budget for the AC change, we waited until the incentives were implemented by the regulator to propose the solar roof. At first, the investment was saw with skepticism. Actually, it was implemented more as a real-life lab for the master's degree in energy resources. But after a couple of months, the savings were evident enough to approve the project proposal for increasing the installed capacity from 30 kilowatts pico to the now 100 kilowatts pico. This is actually a sweet spot under the Colombian regulatory framework, since we can benefit from all the incentives and flexibility that a small generation currently has. More installed capacity will actually just increase the administrative burden and reduce some of the benefits. Now, it's worth noticing that the waiting process also was crucial to be able to find a competitive contractor, since at the moment of the AC system change, renewable energy were supported very poorly, and thus the renewable industry was seen more like a premium or conspicuous consumption than a cost-efficient solution for energy systems, therefore highlighting the need of skilled professionals in this industry. A condensed view of the opportunities and barriers that face energy building design and planning was presented along with the experience behind the implementation of a solar power plant in the main campus of the Universidad de Santander. In general, the implementation has been a success that now is being replied in other UDES campuses. Our experience is in accordance with the guidelines found in the literature survey, and the decision taken involved highlighted the importance of a proper energy efficiency policy and electrical regulation analysis.